everybody needs to watch this and like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Rufus was fun to talk to tonight, wasn't he? And I said I wanted to finish by talking to you and just let's catch up for a minute so they know who Ryan is. They keep seeing you sitting on the couch, and I want people to know.
Oh, thank you.
Why you're here, what the relation. You know what? I mean, it's just so funny. You got to start over again. We tried to do it when Santa was here, but just the quick, if you will, the quick story, because it's kind of interesting how all that happened. And,
meeting each other, or
yeah, meeting each other. Not. I mean, we don't have to go into my shop and all that. Well, we met at my shop just accidentally.
Well, Bryan has a shop,
but I don't want to talk about my stuff. I wanted to talk about the important part is we met, and then 3 years rolls by. But I want to talk about what you did over that 3-year period. And and why don't you give the 30-second overview of where you had been for 10 years before you walked by my shop.
So I was in Rome. I was in a monastery. I was a Cistercian monk and as a Catholic, and I was trying that out. And I did that for about 8 to 10 years. Realized that there were
at the Vatican.
In Rome, right at the Vatican. Yeah, it was amazing. And I'd love to share more about that, but I got to give you the 10-second version. So,
well, I want to kind of march through it and catch us up to today, because a lot has happened to you in this period of time. When
my life.
You left the monastery. Yeah. I mean, your life.
I mean, life is cool because it changes, right? And
it can.
You might not think it's gonna, but it's gonna. And so I was trying to work out some things in my life and in my family and my faith and in my just this beautiful world we live in. And so I ended up living in a monastery for 8 years, living in Italy for 10, and kind of worked through some of those questions about big questions, big answers.
Like where do we go from here? Yibbity, that's all, folks. Or
I was a very idealistic young man, and by young I mean like in high school, and had big dreams and saw the same stretch of highway.
And the dream was to do what?
To find out what's out there, and what's out there. And I did. I'm really blessed. I did. I started immediately after high school. I started working for a guy that was kind of like you, Bryan. His name's Jim Griffith, and he's like, "Hey, we're starting a Russian-American joint venture." And I was like, "Sounds good." And before I knew it, I'm in Russia. This is during Perestroika, when Americans just didn't go to Russia, but we had permission to go in deep into the Perm region and start to do business and try to help them manage this Perestroika, this change period. And so I was the vice president of a Russian-American joint venture, and with people on my board that were high-ranking military in the Russian military, right? And,
wow.
and all over the place. And that started this awakening that there's like a universe out there to be discovered. And it's not just the same path of highway from my beautiful home to my beautiful little town and high school. And I said, there's more out there, and I want to go find out. And so I did. And I feel like your story is a parallel story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so
I wanted to know. I mean, I was so interested, and I feel like I run out of time, not out of interest, out of time.
I do too, Bryan.
I got so many things. And like, we said on the first day, we play in a band together, which has been a lot of fun, hasn't it?
Well, that was like you saying, "Hey, you play violin, Ryan. Why don't you come down? We got a band practice on Tuesday nights at 7:00. Why don't you show up?" And I was like,
all right.
Why don't I show up?
Exactly.
And it was really easy to say, "Oh no, no, that's weird. It's scary. I don't know what I'm going to play. I'm trained in classical violin. I got to have sheet music." And you guys are just like, well, if you want to play, play. If you don't want to play, don't play. And it was so good.
Well, I'll tell you what. So roll back 4 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And I'm having coffee with two guys that were Mark's still in the drummer and the former guitar. Mark, he's great.
Mark is amazing.
He's like a metronome, isn't he?
Yeah.
You never see him do any fancy, all the fancy fills, but he's just like, he reminds me of Charlie Watts from Charlie Watts, same with the Rolling Stones. I mean, he's just like, man, I mean, like the timing. I count. Yeah. I mean, he counts for me. I don't have to count.
He's like gravity. He's just there.
Here we go. We don't know how to go into the song. Every time he plays a song, he plays it exactly the same way. I can say it goes 2 2 2 2. I can 1 2 3 4 5. Here I go. Now I play my part. He and another guy and that guy's a dentist. You know, Mark retired from the military. 2-star general.
I think Mark's a general.
Yeah, general.
Retired general. Yeah.
But anyway, we're having
drums.
We're having coffee. We're having coffee, and we were talking. We were all in a fraternity together in college, and Mark and I were very active in the fraternity. I was the president. He was the vice president. Then he's the president. I'm the vice president. It's like, your turn to be president again. I mean, it was just that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he was always just, you know, a kick-ass leader guy. And
yeah, he's like gravity.
And he's
there. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What am I going to play? What did I play last week? What am I playing this week? And he's keeping it together for the rest of us.
Does.
It's a really beautiful thing.
But we're having coffee.
Yeah.
4 years ago, 4 years and change, and coming up on 5 years, I guess. And we're having, you know, like every other week we're having coffee. I said, we gotta. I'm tired of looking in the rearview mirror. I'm tired of what we used to do this, and we used to do this, and we used to do that, and we used to do that. And he goes, well, what do you mean? And you know, he's flying jets, and he's you know, we've done a lot, man. I mean, if we added it all up, you're like, how do you do all that in one lifetime?
Yeah.
And I said, well, we always played music, and why don't we put a band back together? He said, I don't even own a set of drums. He said, but if you're serious, he said, I will order a set of drums, and I'll have some by Wednesday. And I said, okay, practice is Friday night. John, with the other guy who played with us, he's a dentist and a friend, and he played the first set when we did that show in Floyd County. You know,
okay.
That's John, our fraternity brother,
yes.
The dentist.
Oh, man. What did he play? Stairway to Heaven?
He played
Highway to Heaven?
No, he played, oh, my gosh. That's terrible. I'll think of it.
Thank goodness this is a podcast and camera can cut this out.
Yes, well, or leave it in and say, well, that's what happens when you get old. Look at those two. You can't remember shit. And, well, shit, what was that? What was I talking about?
Yeah.
Holy shit. But anyway, John played guitar, and we started with 3 guys, and we started trying to figure out. So anyway, Mark got a set of drums. Now he has 3 sets of drums, and John came over, and slowly I just started getting people that I used to know that played, and we always met on Tuesday nights at my house. And
yeah, but we need more Bryans in the world.
Well, this ain't about me.
I know.
We need a lot of people in the world.
It actually kind of is, because I'm here because of you, because you're like, you said about this podcast, you could sit and think about it forever, or you could just do it. And
launch.
We're launch.
But what happened to you? You came by my shop. We talked. I always encourage people in business about making money, about doing things. I mean, we could talk forever about all that.
I'd met you like 3 or 4 years previous, just walking in front of your warehouse, and I'm a car person, and there were beautiful cars parked in this warehouse.
I have some world-class cars.
And this guy's
I'm fortunate to have that. I'm fortunate.
I mean, you were like in overalls or something like that, you know, like, and I walked by this open garage door, and I just walked back. I'm like, what the hell? That's a Shelby fucking Cobra sitting right there. And I was like, and it was crouched there, kind of like this panther. Like, I just remember seeing it. If I turned my back, that thing might attack and just devour me.
I know. So that was, to me, when I was a kid. May I tell a quick story?
Yeah, please do.
I'll hurry and tell you what. I'll try to hurry. And this is not about me. This is about for other people. When I was a kid, I made a storyboard of everything that I wanted. And here's the funny part. I could say that I started reading Playboys when I was about 14, and I really, the boobs were interesting to me, but Excalibur cars, the finest homes, the finest stereo systems, the finest wine, the finest this, they all were featured in that magazine. And
yeah,
I kept the centerfolds in one area, another area, but I made a storyboard of all the cars, helicopters, houses, everything. I'm like, that's what I want. And then I got a hold of. I still have this magazine.
I saw the boobs and I said, "That's what I want."
Well, that's
but then I joined a monastery. So moving on.
Then it was boobalicious. But I got a copy. I still have this copy of a Money magazine that I got when I was 14 years old. Everybody else reading like comic books, and I read Money magazine. And there's this guy standing there, and I'm telling you, I still have a paperclip on that page to say I want to be that guy. And at 14, I'm like, how did he do that? My dad was a really nice guy with lots of love and not a whole lot of money. Yeah. And I said, I want to have enough money to buy all those things on that board one day. And it was just, I pushed myself every minute of every day from that point forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to tell you what this guy did very quickly. So
man, I love what you're saying.
He had about 10 Harley Davidsons. I'll tell this quickly for everybody. He had about 10 Harley Davidsons, and he had this house out in the middle of the desert in Arizona, Tucson or someplace. He had about 10 or 12 classic cars with all these motorcycles and this killer house. And he's standing there with cowboy boots on in front of him, like, with his hands hooked in his belt, like, check it out. And I'm like, damn, that's, it ain't bragging. It ain't bragging if you can do it. So, and he could do it. And here's what he did. He had these Harleys, which he liked, and he tried to get them worked on. And they said, it's going to be quite some time. We don't have any mechanics, short on mechanics. He goes to the next Harley dealer. Oh, we're short on mechanics. And he couldn't work on his own bike.
Oh.
So he kept looking for a Harley dealer that could fix his bike quickly. And he never could find it. Guess what he did? Void the marketplace. We're going to fill the void. So he started a school. He hired the best mechanics that he could find that worked on Harley Davidson, and he got approved by Harley Davidson to train Harley-trained mechanics. And he charged people a lot of money to become a certified Harley Davidson mechanic, and then he placed them in all those Harley dealerships where they didn't have trained mechanics. And he made $1 gazillion and then sold out.
Man.
And you don't have to be a genius to do that. You don't have to be Elon and put a man on Mars.
You know what I love about that too is, though, I mean, he employed people and gave them a purpose. I mean, I actually know a Marine here, lives in Louisville, Kentucky, who's a actual Marine hero. He's films made about him and stuff. And what brought him out of not knowing what his purpose was after he lost a leg.
Wow.
Was to learn how to repair Harleys.
Okay.
Yeah, and it brought him. He suddenly realized I can do other things. I don't have to be in the baddest animal in war. I can repair Harleys, and who knows? Maybe their stories are connected. I don't know, but I love that story that he engaged other people and gave them purpose, because everyone that I've ever heard of that was a Harley mechanic was passionate about it.
Oh yeah, and they know every nut and bolt. They're either all in or they can't do
wrench of anything on that bike.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I rode a Harley till I had one ride me. So I punctured a lung, broke 7 ribs, broke my back, and I said, they said, "Are you going to ride anymore?" I'm like, once the motorcycle rode me, rather me riding the motorcycle, and I'm sliding down the road tearing stuff off my body. I don't think I want to do that anymore. I know.
So I just got to tell you, speaking of riding and being ridden by bikes, I was lucky on this. So my girlfriend, she can't figure out why I keep this helmet. She's like, "It's filthy. Why don't you buy a new one?" I'm like, that tells a story, man.
It does.
And that mark on the back here, there's a skid mark. This helmet has been run over by a semi truck, and I'm kind of proud of that.
I hear you.
I was coming across. We got the new bridge here. It was the super expensive bridge they built across the Ohio, and I was smoking a cigar and riding. And I had stopped though, and I was like, I had to go back across the toll bridge because they're going to charge me to come across. And I thought, it's a hot night. I ought to set my helmet over my license plate as a place to rest it while I go across this toll booth bridge. And I got to the other side, and I don't recommend anyone do that because it turns out like they actually know how to bill me based on my license plate. And I had just covered just don't ever do that.
And you did inadvertently. You weren't trying
to. Totally inadvertently, Bryan. And when I got across the river, I came around this curve, and my helmet goes flying off my.
Well, that's called karma. After you
and there's a semi truck behind me, and he hit it. Now, it's not as big of a story as to say that this helmet was run over by a semi while I was wearing it, but it was still run over by a semi.
Your helmet was run over by a semi.
Yeah.
It just your head wasn't in it.
That's a story right there.
That is a story.
That's some life right there.
Sometimes you learn by what to do, and sometimes by what not to do.
Yeah,
those are both learning curves.
Very important lessons, both of those.
Yeah, when I was robbing the bank, that was what. No, I'm just kidding. But
right, we didn't rob banks.
No.
But we did accidentally.
Inadvertently.
Inadvertently.
So talk about. Once we talked about business, you said so that 3 years ago you just gotten into town. I mean, you had gone with the monastery. Am I saying that correctly? In Bardstown.
Yeah, there's a famous monastery called Gethsemane Abbey where Thomas Merton had spent his life. He's a very interesting person if people don't know about him. And I wanted to try some time in his shoes, in a sense, and hang around with the people that he hung around with. He died way back. But I got to do that and determined that, monastic life is probably not the best way for me to spend the next few decades of my life because it's an enclosed, kind of cloistered, sometimes silent type of lifestyle. And while that was wonderful, and I think everybody ought to try it, it wasn't the way I wanted to live the rest of my days. And so, like, if I wanted to have a motorcycle in a monastery, I had to ask permission of the abbot, and he could say no. But now I have permission from the Vatican to be a deacon and a monk with a dispensation, and just live a normal life. And so,
but you got into business.
So I got into business. I was really inspired by you way early on. You told me some stories about mentors that you had. For example, the gentleman who told you,
buy a house.
You're going to buy this,
or
you're going to buy this property today, Bryan. And but he knew the Bryan that he was dealing with because he was a successful businessman. And he said, Bryan, if you want to know something about business, then I want you to meet me every morning at this time.
Yeah, you know that what I've realized many years later, and I stayed in touch with him until he died 2 years ago at 80 years old. But I was 24 years old, and he said, meet me at my office at 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings. Saturday, which meant you had to get your ass to bed and be prepared to get up, and so you weren't out. So I think he was testing me to see, was I going to, not that I didn't party a lot in school and party too much, but I got up and I made that appointment every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And I think he gained respect for me that I would choose to do that. I could have made a lot of excuses why I couldn't get there at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, but I just went because I had.
You'd seen the picture of the man with the cowboy boots with all his cars and motorcycles, and you were like...
Yeah, and this guy had a helicopter pad at his house, the guy I'm talking about having breakfast with.
Well, you found a good friend.
There you go.
Yeah.
I wanted a helicopter pad at my house,
Yeah.
And if he knows how to do that, I want to spend some time with him rather than out Friday night getting drunk. So there will be time for that, as they say, but there'll be time for that. But anyway, that's what happened. And he said, buy that house. We talked about this, and we've talked about it on the show, but it was an apartment complex behind the Marriott on the lake, and they were turning them into condos. And he said, go over today and buy one. They can help you with the financing.
Today. And
I hesitated when he said buy one. And I said, well, what? He said, today. Go buy one today, right now. Just go right on over there and do that. And I did, and I made $20,000. I sold that to move to take another. I went from a director of tourism, which I was in Southern Indiana, 24 years old, if you can believe that. And they made me the executive director of a new convention bureau in Wayne County, Indiana. And I felt like, this was my second career job. I'd already had one of the, I was a kid.
And $20,000 at that time was
a lot of money.
Tremendous amount of money.
Yeah. The big job that I got paid $13,000, and I just made $20,000. I made more on that one house deal than I did working for a year.
Yeah.
On an executive position, really.
Yeah.
And that's how much it meant. And from that point forward, when I got to Wayne County, Indiana, I started looking around. I bought one house. I went through. I moved 6 times in 6 years, and I went on to my next project. But at that place, I found a house for $13,000. It was an old chair factory, and my parents came by one day, and I was shoveling the inside of it out the windows.
Yeah.
And I turned it into a house and loved that house, and sold that house, but it was all sweat equity. So when somebody says to me, when somebody says to me, I can't do it, I can't afford to buy a house. Oh, yes, you can. And you just haven't found the house bad enough yet.
Right.
Or in the worst, so go to Detroit or go somewhere where they'll sell you a house for $1 and get busy.
Yeah.
Right.
And you did.
And I did.
And I saw that evidenced in your life by your freaking, your Shelby Cobra sitting right in front.
I still have that car. It's the last AC. It's not a Shelby. It's an AC.
That's
AC
right,
made the bodies for Shelby. Always. And Shelby has a CSX serial number. The ACs have a COB serial number of Britain. That car never made it out of England until it made it to Los Angeles and into my garage. That was a guy in L.A. bought it, and I did a little wheeling and dealing with him on a 63 Corvette that he wanted and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I ended up with that car, but it's the last AC ever built. I just made the cover of the AC International Collector magazine, and they did a 6-page spread. Not to brag, it's just fact.
No,
about what I'd done and how I got this car, and
I was about 16 or 17 the first time I ever saw one, and my dad, he stopped me in the street. He grabbed me by the shoulder. He's like, "I got to show you something." And there it was parked, same exact paint job as yours, and he said, "That's my dream right there." And my dad's an amazing engineer. He's worked at Boeing. He had his own engineering company, and that's my dad's car right there. And so when I saw it sitting in your garage, I thought, this man's got something special going on. I don't know what it is, but I want to, I want to know. And I thought,
but tell him what you've done since. Forget. I get the motivation. I appreciate it because I was motivated. I told the story, so we're going to pay it forward. That guy told me go buy it today, and I said to you, similarly, go do something, man.
You told me a bunch of
business.
Things. I told you one thing I heard you say was, find some mentors in your life, and then you also said, while everyone else is watching TV in the evenings, he said, you said, I'm out tinkering around doing stuff, and I might as well be restoring a car instead of sitting on my couch in front of a TV. And you obviously that fits your personality type, but I thought, you know what, he's right. And then you told me a series of other.
I built 2 airplane kits one winter. I went down every night into the basement. You build them on a 16-foot table, and I assembled those airplane kits. And in the spring, the neighbors were watching me pull this fuselage that I'd made over the wintertime. I assembled it in my parents' driveway, and to see if I tied the tail off to their tree to see if I could make it run so it wouldn't take off. But anybody can do it. Anybody can do it.
I met a guy at Intel Corporation who did exactly the same thing. And I don't know. For me, I loved your story. I was like, yeah, why not do that? And then I met another person, like I said, did the same type of thing. And I don't know, there's different personality types, different ways to make choices in life and different things to do.
There are.
But I noticed passion like in you. And so I just remember pretty much memorizing everything that you told me that day.
And you did it. And what did you do?
Well, I went out and bought a company.
And what did they do?
I went out and bought. So we bought the oldest awning company in Louisville. It's called OK Awning. It was named after, I believe, Oscar Klosterman. And
cool.
I was needing a summer job, and this was right behind my house. So I'm a teacher, so I was working summers there, and I just looked around this place and said, "This is cool. It's fun. This is a shop," and it's been around for almost 100 years. And then when the owner said, I'm getting older. Somebody's going to have to run this shop. He offered it to his nephew, the guy I worked with, my manager. And my manager saw that I was a hardworking guy, I think, that I'd be there sometimes late at night on a Saturday night working. And he said, "You're the kind of person that I'd like to go into business with. You want to buy this company out with me?" I was like, "I'll be the best partner that you ever had." And And to this day, I mean, we were doing business today, and I'm trying to live up to that every time I'm with him, and I'm really grateful. It's good to have, things like that just keep you motivated, and we're employing a lot of people. We're doing a lot of good, and awnings are fun because you get to go around town and see your work. You get to see what you're doing, and it's pride of ownership.
And then you got into another business.
Well, I keep getting into businesses because I'm like you, and I keep buying property too.
That's the next key.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're lucky because
people said, "Oh, you're so lucky." I said, "I'm not lucky. I would have been lucky. I could have done pretty well at McDonald's because I would take 2 shifts on. I'd take the first shift and live on it. I'd take the second shift and say,
invest it.
What can I buy?"
Yeah.
I saw this guy, a story of this guy, if I may interrupt here. I mean, here's a learning curve for other people. He's wearing a hoodie. He's got some shorts on, sneakers, but he's getting on his $17 million jet.
Yeah.
And they said, the guy's interviewing him, kind of like, we're talking, he's interviewing him. He said, "How'd you get this?" And he said, "I'll tell you something what I learned early on." He said, "Poor people buy things. Rich people buy equity in things." Oh, yeah. What's the difference? So money in and of itself has no intrinsic value. It doesn't do anything. You could say, "I have $1 million in the bank." Well, really, all it is paper. It's paper.
Right.
Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And the bank's not giving you much money to use it.
Yeah.
But you could take $1 million and turn it into, you could speed this process up, and I've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And I figured out early on, I said, $1 million, 1,000 deals making $1,000 a deal. Probably do that. And then all of a sudden you do $10,000, $20,000 hit on a house. You live in a house 2 years out of 5 years. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to stop myself. Answer this question. Your expenses right now, what's your biggest expense?
Oh, well, it would be my truck, my car. But my business can pay for that. So my business bought my truck from me.
Right.
My business.
What's your biggest expense other than your truck?
It would be your housing.
No.
I think you might be wrong, but
no. Taxes. Taxes are any person's biggest expense. Taxes. Even if I don't care what income, I don't care what income bracket you're in.
Yeah.
Taxes are a problem. So you have to find legal ways to play the game. And the game is, I'm going to pay as few taxes as possible. Bryan, how do you do that? Well, one, you can do it. Don't fall in love with the house you're living in. 2 years out of, if you live in a house as a principal residence, 2 years out of 5, and you bought it right, when you sell it and make the money, no taxes due. You put it all in your pocket. No capital gains taxes due on a principal residence. Must live in it 2 years, not in a row, 2 out of 5. So I did 2 the first time. I lived in it for 2 years. I rented it, moved to the other one, lived in it 2 years, went back, sold them both, and qualified to sell 2 homes as a principal residence. I bought them both on short sales, and I worked my ass off. But one was a $600,000 condo, 3 stories, steam bath on the 3rd floor, overlooking the river, $600,000. The lady lost the condo back to the bank. I bought it on a short sale for $197,500, less than $200,000.
Yeah, I want to do that.
2 years, and I got 2 years. And twice in my life, I went to, the reason I found out about it, I went over there because she had a Ferrari Testarossa advertised.
Yeah.
And I bought the car and put it back in the garage where it came from. I did that twice in my life. I bought the car and the house both. And people said, "How do you do this? How do you do?" I'm like, well, you must be awake, and you must constantly. So,
there's a book out there, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Is there really?
That's not me. But I think I might try to write that book someday.
And, well, you need to.
And and it was like you were saying, you try not to pay your taxes. Obviously, taxes are important, right? We want to live. Yeah, we want to live in a country that runs.
I'll pay him. Believe me, I pay more than my fair share. I mean, I'd hate to tell you what I paid this year. It'd make you'd cry for me. But
it did scare me. If I could just say that the first time I bought a piece of property, and I thought, I own this thing. I actually paid it off. And I did it in a smart way, by the way. There's some really cool ways to like use a 401k to loan to yourself, and I did all those things. And then my tax bill came in, and I thought, if I don't pay this $2,500 taxes for the year, I won't own this property anymore. And it shocked me that I thought I owned this property, but I don't. I have to pay to own that property.
Right. There are fixed expenses.
And I think this is what you were getting to. And, I don't mean to make a statement about paying taxes or not paying taxes. It's like,
well, I'll pay them if they're due, but if I can get around it and there's a legal way, I didn't write the tax code. It's like playing Monopoly.
That's right. Yeah. And we have
I just passed go. Give me my $200, and I'm going to take another lap around the track.
It's true. It's true.
So I want to pay. I mean, any money I keep, I don't have to earn. That's the easiest money you'll ever make is don't spend it.
But see, you keep reinvesting the money, and you're part of this economic engine.
Yes.
That is benefiting not just you, many people. So, and that's why there are those tax laws, by the way.
I went to Florida 7 years ago. I found a house for $90,000. I bought it. The realtor, she knew I like to roll pretty hard. And so she rolls by in her golf cart. When it's a little gated community, she rolls by in her golf cart. I mean, it was very depressed at the time. And I told all my buddies, I said, you want a house in Florida, now's the time to buy it. You want a jet, now's the time to buy it. You want a Rolex watch, go get one. Because everything is like crushed, almost as it is right now. And it's like, here we go. Get whatever it is you want right now. Anyway, so she says, you want to sell your house? If you ever want to sell your house, let me know. She cruises by and I go, I said, I'll sell my shoes. I mean, if there's a good price. So anyway, I said, well, for how much? She goes, I can almost double your money, and I could have it done in 10 days. I said, will you operate on a handshake? She said, yes. She came back, so shook hands. I said, I'll do it. Sell it. And, Lisa, she's tearing up watching this house go away. I said, listen.
Beautiful Lisa.
Buying a house is easy. Selling a house can be tough. So anyway, doubling your money is hard sometimes.
It's a real accomplishment.
So anyway, I paid 90. I got 170. I found out that around the corner in the same neighborhood, a guy had passed away, and his daughter said, this is a house twice the size of mine. I mean, it was on the water. Mine looked at the water. Really nice house. And she said, I don't want it. They had $1 million motorhome there. And she said, I'll take $200,000. You got $200,000? I'm like, well, I just got 170 yesterday. Yeah, I can come up with $200,000. She said, if you can pay cash and pay me this week, you can have it. And whatever's there, I didn't get the motorhome. They took the motorhome. But anything in that house, you can have it. And
cash is king.
Cash is king. You must have cash, and you must have the availability. You got to know what to buy, and you got to, if it's made out of sticks and stones, don't fall in love with it.
Yeah, because you got to be able to let it go.
You got to walk away.
So
Lisa, back to her, loved that house that we got. She goes, we got one of the finest homes in the neighborhood, and you got it for $200,000. I said, I know, but there's always a better house. So last Monday. I used to say, do you think Donald Trump would live here? And they're like, well, no. But I was like, well, when you say, well, maybe, I'm going to say, okay, that's the keeper.
We got the keeper, yeah.
Keeper. I mean, that guy lives pretty well. And so anyway, that same realtor called me last Monday and said, I know your house not for sale, but I know you. And they really like your house. This guy and his family, they really like your house. You want to sell it?
Listen up, everybody.
I said, I paid $2,000, I'll take $300,000. And that's not bragging. That's just a fact. I'll take $300,000. You want it? I don't care. You don't want it?
Because they can
fine.
say, that's not worth $300,000.
Yeah, don't buy it.
They have every right to. And,
absolutely.
And they should if that's
I didn't do anything to it. It was in really nice shape. That guy did an amazing job.
Yeah.
But I got it because they wanted out. And I got it because I didn't have to go to the bank and diddle around. I just right?
Yeah.
So I said, I spend $1 like I'm spending $10,000, but I'll spend $10,000 like $1. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So anyway, I said, do I got to sign anything? She goes, no, you just, can we do a handshake? Yeah, we'll do a handshake over the phone. We're in. Do it.
Yeah.
She got it done that week. They're paying cash, and I'm leaving Friday to go down and pick up my $300,000. And anyway, so as you know, I found a house that I think is worth $1 million. Yeah. This house is killer.
Yeah, I saw it. I just thought I can't afford that, so I just kept going.
Well, I would have said, I
Well,
can't
you
afford.
said,
I can't afford not to buy it.
Yeah.
That's what I
Would
said.
you take?
I did, and they took it.
Good. Yeah. Well, because your particular house too had been on the market a little while because it's unique. It's not like any other house. It's very modern. It's Frank Lloyd Wright. It's got the compression expansion features and all those Frank Lloyd Wright aspects about it.
It does, absolutely, and that's what, as an art and engineering major in college. I mean, it was like, and it's got a 2,400 square foot garage, and it's on 3 acres. It's a pretty nice house.
It's very
maybe
very
one of the
nice.
nicest homes I've seen in the area.
I've seen nothing like it.
No,
in this area. Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And I've been in a lot of areas. That house belongs in Laguna Beach.
It does. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where you'd see that house, or
on the California coast, honestly.
somewhere on the California coast.
La Jolla.
It was, when I walked in, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So anyway.
And it's important.
But bang zoom, in 4 days, I sold a house. I went to Florida the last time. The last time I was there to go on vacation, they said, "Did you enjoy your trip?" And I said, "I was there for 10 days." I said, "Well, I sold a house, bought a house, and moved in the 10 days while I was there.
You got to be ready."
Now I'm going back. And guess what I'm doing now? Selling a house and moving again every time I go. But that that goes a long way in paying for this house.
Yeah. And just a practical note is that maybe not the speed at which most people want to live their lives. But you do.
I do.
Yeah. A family, the young family, they can't do those kind of things, but you can.
An electrician stopped by my garage Monday night. He did some work for me, and I said, I'll pay you in cash, stop by. We get there, and he's like, "Bryan, I know you know a lot about this. I bought my house." He's 27 years old.
Yeah.
He got 2 kids. "I bought my house for like $120,000. He said, "I can get a little over $200,000 for it, but I worked extra hard, and every extra dollar, I paid it off." And he goes, "What should I do?" I said, "Well, if you've paid it off and you've been there 2 years and that cash is sitting there," I'm not Dave Ramsey. I'm just saying, it ain't going to earn a penny more. It ain't going to become $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
But $1 million building is $100,000 that you could extract out of that house, buy another $100,000 house, and start paying on this. Extract your $100,000, go buy $1 million building. $100,000 down in a pen says, "I'm going to buy $1 million building.
Yep.
I'm going to rent it out for 15 years, and all those renters are going to make me $1 million bucks." So I told him, I said, "I can guarantee," because I know a little bit about this. "I guarantee that works. You can go buy $1 million building for $100,000 down, and
you know what? He will, because once you've heard that, you can't get that out of your head."
He said, "I'm going to go home tonight and talk to my wife." I said, "Well, you're not going to have the house of your dreams, but you're going to get the deal of your dreams."
Yeah.
And then you won't get the house you're going to get the house of somebody else's dreams, because they'll say, "How in the hell did you do that?"
Yeah. And having been a former monk, I know that happiness is not in things, but I do believe that things can bring you joy and bring you happiness. And that if that's what you want to do, go about it. You weren't causing anybody any harm in that.
No.
But
I just make offers on
joy.
property. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. Don't do it.
That's the way I make an offer too. It's like, look, I know it's worth that much to you. Apparently the market doesn't claim that, because you've had it for 300 days now on sale. Here's what I can afford and what it means to me. And I understand that it means $300,000 to you, but it means $150,000 to me. And that's a precious $150,000 that I have to spend.
Me, I don't ever get jaded on the cash, but you got to do that. You got to be willing to walk.
You got to be willing, yeah.
You got to be willing to walk.
Yeah.
When somebody says, "I love it," you're dead meat.
Yeah, as the seller, that's what you want to hear. Well,
good.
We got this deal.
Right.
That's done.
That's right. Next. So, yeah, when somebody calls me and says, "I'd like to buy your house and it's not for sale," I'm like, this is going to be fun, right? Yeah. Will you do this or that? No, I probably will not.
Probably not. Yeah.
No. And
but,
they said, we'll have to do inspections. I said, well, here's the deal. Here's what you're going to do. Do every inspection you want to do, but don't make the offer yet.
Right.
When you get done inspecting it, I'm going to sell it as is, or otherwise I'm not selling it, because I'm not going through all those. To me, the building inspector people are like criminals. How old's the furnace? But anyway.
We are so lucky, though. It's always good to sprinkle the seasoning of humility and on all these types of conversations. We're so lucky to live in a time when we have access to so many things, aren't we? I was thinking about that yesterday. I went to the doctor, went to the dentist. I was like, the wealthiest person in the Middle Ages didn't have as good of a life and access to healthcare and access to food and the resources that we have access to. We're really, really lucky.
Well, I'll tell you, and this being a monk, here's my testimony real quick. I quit drinking because I had to 17 years ago. My life got
Good
better.
job.
I made more money in the last 17 years than I made in the first, I'm 69 years old, and I made in the first 50 years. And I tried hard then, but I was my own worst enemy and damn near drank myself to death. But I managed to stop drinking, and I got busy, and I'm like, I'm going to catch up. Now, I have turned mint chocolate chip ice cream into a dangerous drug. But
yeah, hey, could be worse.
I felt like, it's not like, I used to treat God like Santa Claus. I want one of these, I want one of these, I want one of these. Oh, God, help me get that Rolex watch. Help me make this deal. But, I tried to start talking about God as much as I talked about money to people. And I said, we're not here really to build wealth. We're here to build character. And if you're worried about the character, sometimes the wealth just shows up. I couldn't have made this deal. I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I could not have structured it. Sell a house on Monday that I wasn't planning on selling. Saturday, go find the house of my dreams, really.
Yeah.
Get the money deals together to pay cash for it in 5 days.
Yeah.
How do you do that without help? I mean, you can't do all that. You're the luckiest man on the face of the earth. So I think that So I go to a meeting and I say, "How do you quit drinking?" I said, "I can make it 3 or 4 days," and then I'm like, right, I got a cigar in one hand and a bourbon in the other. That's the way I did business. I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm trying to make this to people that might listen to this, and hopefully they can become you.
If the shoe fits, wear it. If you hear something that makes sense, try it out.
So I go to this meeting. They said, we're all going to hold hands and we're going to pray to God for you to have a miracle. And, I'm telling you, after 3 or 4 or 5 days, it was like somebody tapped me on the shoulder, Bryan, let's go have a beer. Bryan, here's if I was happy, I'm celebrating a big deal. Let's go have a beer. If I'm sad, let's go have a beer. Everything revolved around drinking. Anyway, I did pray, and I was never close to God. I mean, really I was close to God at Christmas. And I wrote a song recently that I recorded, and it talked about the feeling of loss, of losing family members and all that, and I talked about Jesus Christ and Christmas trees, because it was at one time of year. Oh yeah, I know that. I remember that story, and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and Silent Night, and like, okay, time for New Year's Eve, and next year, here we go. It didn't mean anything to me, but it finally does mean to you when you start losing health issues, invade loss of family that you love, and you realize. They said, money must be important to you. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you everything I got, have my parents back. That's what it means to me. I give you everything in a minute. But the way it goes, according to my Bible study group I go to now, is if you play your cards right and you get right with God, we get to see him again and we live an everlasting life. You believe that?
Do I?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's more important than anything we talked about. Forget the houses, right? Because we're just going to rent those. Somebody else is going to be living in that house.
Honestly, that's the inspiration that just, and this idea that the world's such a beautiful place. Like it
can be. It could be
so
evil
exciting
and terrible, but
but so that's not the role that I choose to play, and I don't think you choose to play, and the karma that comes back to you, is insane. It's beautiful.
But you can't cut a deal. You can't broker a deal with Jesus Christ and say, okay, look, here's what I'll be good if you'll get me there. It don't work that way.
No,
does it?
and also when we're talking about brokering a deal with other human beings, it's like we're coming in honest and fair. It's like, look, this is what I've got to offer. I know you value your thing at this, and I value this is what I have.
Or I choose not to spend it.
You're not.
I mean, I'm not going to, right?
Yeah. And a person,
if you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Don't do it. And a lot of people don't. They're like, well, I appreciate your offer though, but that's not where I'm at. And, but then every now and then somebody is.
I just felt like I started living better. And when I started living better, life started treating me better, because I had 20 years ago, I had a white Rolls Royce in the garage, a really nice house, and I'm sitting in the backyard by myself because I don't have any friends left. You run them off when nobody wants to be around a guy that's drunk all the time. Even, I don't care how much you got to say. And I wasn't smart enough to know it. So I didn't, when, I wasn't living in a refrigerator box. I was living, but the loneliness really that comes with that kind of life.
Yeah. Kind of felt
is just as intense as if I was living in a refrigerator box, because a Rolls Royce by yourself don't mean much.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Not a thing.
Yeah.
So it's all really, I look forward to getting into this house, decorating this house, and having all my friends over.
Yeah.
To come and enjoy that.
And warm it with you. Yeah.
That's really what it's meant to do.
But you got a lot of moving to do because you have a lot of stuff.
I have
stuff.
I have managed to acquire a lot of cool stuff. But, I was in a fraternity, and I learned more from fraternity than I learned in a lot of things in my life, but they handed a pledge class, the first 10 of you in a row, they handed the first guy a big onion. And they said, here's the deal. You got to eat the onion. You 10 guys are going to eat this onion. Now, let's just see what you're made of. You don't have to take a bite of it. Hand it to the next guy. But by the end of it, if you don't have the onion, well, you're all out. But if the onion is eaten, even not proportionally to the amount of people that do the job, you're all in. So you can either work as a team and eat the onion, or you can leave now. Who wants the onion? And the first guy looked at me. I mean, I was the guy doing the speech. You want the onion? He looked at me, and he looked me in the eye, and he stared me in the eye, and he ate it like an apple. And he looked at me. He's like, "Let's go!" Right?
Whoa! Woo!
It's inspirational.
Motivation, yeah.
And the rest of those guys, I mean, like, wow, that guy's so cool.